Today's Bible lesson is coming out of John chapter 13. It will cover Jesus washing the disciples' feet and a lesson he taught them on serving, and it will also cover the Last Supper. Today in writing, students can just practice the sentences on the board. So we are learning commas in a series on this week, which means whenever we list things in a sentence, knowing where to place the commas exactly. We actually will not do the workbook pages on this week, so every day you can expect for them to have sentences on the board or to do some type of assignment with sentences. Today in Phonics, students will complete pages 273 and 274 in their workbook. It is a continual review of adjectives and sentences. And also, today they will learn how to use suffix er and est. Whenever you use suffix er or est in a word, you are usually using it to compare two nouns. Like if we say that car was big, but this car is bigger, or we could say that car is the biggest. And so they will kind of have a review of that in their book on today. Phonics test will be on tomorrow. Today's reading pages are pages 97 to 100. Test will be on Thursday. Today in spelling, students can review list 27 and they can write them 3 times on today. Today in language, students can review the definition of a preposition. They can also review lists 1, 2, 3, and 4 just to stay familiar with other words that are prepositions. After that, they can either write down or they can give you oral sentences with prepositions list 4. This week in science, students learned about push, which is another kind of force, and the book gave examples of how pushing is a force. They also learned about magnetism, which is another kind of force. Magnets are the actual thing that will pull things together. And so there are a couple of definitions like magnite, attract, and magnetic that they will need to know for their test on Thursday. And so it talked about the poles, the North and the South Pole, and if you put opposite poles together, they will attract. The same poles, meaning if it's the north and the north, they will repel, which means they will not connect. They will actually push away from one another. And so they also learned about how magnets are used and the different ways that magnets help us. Students will also learn about work in machines. And so machines are used to move large or heavy things. It helps us not to be able to have to put in too much effort, being that the machine does most of the work. And so the wheel and axle is a machine, the inclined plane, the pulley is a machine as well, and the lever. And so they will have to kind of, know some of the bold words, the definitions, and just examples of each type of machine. This week in social studies, students will learn about American inventions that changed the world. And so we have the sleeping car, Henry Ford, and how he created the assembly line, which started the first production of the first car. The airplane, the Wright brothers, Alexander Graham Bell with the telephone, Thomas Edison with the light bulb and the phonograph and motion pictures as well. Then we have Garrick Morgan, who was a Hebrew inventor who invented the traffic light. We have Norman Borlaug, who he grew up in Iowa, and he wished he could find a way to help people that did not have enough food. And so him and someone worked together to help countries find better ways to grow food. Dr. Robert Cherney, who was a medic in World War II, and he was a scientist. He was a scientist for NASA. And then there are other inventors: Igor Sikorsky, who invented the helicopter; Mary Anderson, the windshield wiper; Dr. Anne Wang, who invented computers to be able to remember information. And so students will have to be able to identify the person and what their invention was. Test will be on Thursday.